Knox Game Design. August 2020. BBS Games, VT100, and ANSI Graphics.
Welcome everyone to Knox Game Design for August 2020. This is a monthly review of game development topics. My name is Levi Smith and I'm in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. So this month's topic is BBS Games, VT100, and ANSI Graphics. So first of all, I'll talk a little bit about modems. A modem is a piece of hardware that you would use to connect to a BBS. There are various different speeds of modems. The first modem that I had was a 14.4K modem, which I have back here. Let me switch back. So this was a Hayes Zoom modem right here, and it would have different lights on the front that would blink as you connect, and it sent data back and forth. And by the way, modem stands for modulator, demodulator. One thing that I've always been curious about is how the modem actually communicated with the remote system. You can see back here you had a parallel port that you could plug a parallel cable into, and then you'd plug the other end into your computer. Then it had two inputs right here, one for going from your wall from the outside into your modem, and then you could plug another phone into here. So yeah, I never really understood how it actually made that connection. That's something I'll probably look into one of these days. Like, did it convert the static sound whenever your modem connected to a remote server? You'd hear the static sound and the ringing and the beeps and everything. So that'd be kind of interesting to look into. The second modem that I had was a 28.8 modem, and I don't know where it is, but my third modem was a 33K. This was also a Hayes Zoom modem, so it looks kind of like the other one. You had a button here that you could press to turn it on and off. And this also had, this is my parallel cable plugged into the back, so it looks a lot like the other one. And then my last modem was a 56K modem, which I don't know where it is either, but 56K was kind of the speed limit. Once they got to 56K, they didn't make modems any faster. That's when you started getting into the cable modems and broadband and things like that. I remember one protocol whenever I connected to a BBS. So BBS is a Bulletin Board System. It was kind of like the precursor to the internet, where you could dial in, and these Bulletin Board Systems had things like chat rooms, file download areas, door games, which I'll talk about in a little bit, and other cool things like that. So when you connected, you used this thing called PPP protocol, point-to-point protocol. I think there was another protocol, which I don't remember what it was, but when you need to download files from a BBS, there is various different protocols that you can use. The three that I remember are X modem, Z modem, and Kermit. I remember there was a lot of other ones too, but I think I typically use Z modem. Seems like that was the fastest. Another feature on some BBSs, the BBS that I used quite a bit when I was a teenager in Atlanta, it was called Index BBS, and it had 64 lines, which was really cool. Most BBSs at the time only had 1 or 2 lines, and whenever you called into a BBS, it tied up both your phone line and the phone line on the other system. So a lot of BBSs only had 1 or 2 lines, and there's also on many BBSs a limit of how much time that you could spend on there. So typically it was about an hour. A lot of BBSs had subscription that you could pay into, so you could extend the amount of time that you could be on the BBS. But yeah, if you're on your modem and somebody picked up the phone in the other room and they're on the same line, then they would hear the staticky sound, I guess, as the modem connected and communicating with the remote server, and that would typically knock you off the BBS and make you disconnect. So frequently you'd see the message "no carrier," which meant that either your system, I think it typically meant the remote system dropped your connection. So it's always a bad sign when you're like really far into a download or in the middle of a game and you'd see that "no carrier," and it seems like that was always a dreadful sign right there. So BBS games, so I kind of see these as the precursors to the MMOs. There was also another type of game called a MUD, which is a multi-user dungeon. I remember playing one a little bit called Major MUD, but I typically played one called Legend of the Red Dragon. It had things like, you could gain experience. It's kind of like Dragon Warrior, Final Fantasy, just without the real-time graphics. It's all text-based and is just one action at a time. But yeah, you had your experience, your strength, your intellect, and then you could get gold, go out and fight enemies, and you'd try to level up through the leveling system. You get armor and things like that. And you could also fight against other players as well, which was kind of, I don't know, nothing like I had ever seen at the time, because I came from a Nintendo NES console background, so to be able to play a game against other people in the area, which was really cool to me. So the BBS software back then was things like Wildcat, Renegade. I remember that was the free BBS software, and Index ran on TBBS, which was, I think, 64 lines. It could handle more lines than any other BBS software. Now, there are still BBSs around today, but they're internet BBSs, which you can connect to using a Telnet program like PuTTY, or even the command line Windows DOS-style interface. So yeah, I played a lot of door games back in the mid-90s. I don't know what door actually stood for. I think it's just kind of like an external application that ran on the aside the BBS software. Like I said earlier, most of these BBS games had text-based graphics and ANSI. I forget exactly what ANSI stands for. I know ASCII is American Standard Characters for Information Interchange. But ANSI kind of had a few additional characters outside of ASCII, which you could use to make pretty neat looking graphics, blocky style graphics. So most games, due to that limitation, it had a limited number of turns a day, so you could play like in maybe 20 turns a day, or you maybe had so many moves that you could make each day. So here's two of the games that I played a lot in the late 90s. Legend of the Red Dragon, also called Lord. One cool thing about Legend of the Red Dragon is that it had what was called IGM, which stood for Intergame Modules. So you had the base Lord game. And oh, by the way, this was created by Seth Abel Robinson, who has participated and helped out with Ludum Dare, and I've communicated with him every now and then, which I think is pretty cool. Be able to talk with the person or communicate with the guy, the game that you played years and years ago. And the other game that I played a lot was Trade Wars 2002. So it was more of a space-style game. You had and I'll talk about it a little bit more in a little bit. So this is what Legend of the Red Dragon looked like. As I mentioned earlier, you had a limited number of fights each day. You could attack other players. They had an inn where you could actually stay at the inn, and then if you, it made it harder for people to attack you while you were offline. I think they had to pay more gold. Otherwise, if you just quit in the middle of the field, then anybody could attack you at any time. It had a leveling system where you had trainers, and you had to fight the trainers to gain a level to increase your stats. And you could buy weapons and armor in the armor shop and the weapon shop as well. It had a bank where you could deposit some of your money, so if somebody attacks you, you don't lose all your money. You could see all the other people playing. Oh, and one cool thing about this game that you didn't see anywhere else is it had a romance type system in it, so you could actually get married to other players and things like that. Or I think there was a Griselda or somebody in the end, so you could flirt, and as you built more charisma, you could get higher levels of things that you could do to flirt with the different characters, which I thought was pretty cool back in the time. So the other game that I played a lot was called Trade Wars 2002, And basically, the premise was you're in space, and you had a limited number of holds on your ship. You could actually buy new ships and upgrade your ships at the Star Dock. But the objective was to go around this graph of different sectors in the universe. And typically, on most games, there were 2,000 sectors. They weren't sequential. There's just all random numbers, as you can see here on the screen right here. So all these sectors were connected, and what you try to do is find like a deep hole where it's kind of like a one-way dead end. Then you would create your base in that tunnel. At the end of that tunnel, then you could put fighters around it, and you could build up your planets, upgrade your planets. And I think there was like some sort of photon missile or something you could equip your planet with. It had like a command center or a temple or something like that. So it was a really cool game, and it's cool because you could run into other people playing at the same time, or they may be offline. You could find somebody's sector and you could attack it. But generally, most of the time while playing Trade Wars 2002, you would find ports in the various sectors, and there was 3 types of different resources, which you can see on the screen here, which are fuel ore, organics, and equipment. So you would try to buy these resources at the ports at a low price, then find another port that would buy it and sell it at a high price. So typically you wanted to find 2 sectors next to each other where you could buy from one and sell to the other real fast and just jump between the 2. And that way you could make a lot of money for a limited number of turns. You could also generate these resources on the planets themselves. So you could lift off from a planet and then take it and sell it that way too. You could have multiple planets in a sector. I think you were limited to like 5. And there were different planet types. I think there was 5 or 6 different types. But there was only like 2 actually good planets. I think it was the Earth type and the mountainous type. And they had, each planet type had a different production rate for the different resources. So one might be really good at creating organics, and another one might be good for fuel ore. But the problem is with a lot of the planets is your colonists on the planets would frequently die unless you had a mountainous type or an earth type. So there's also, I think, Terra in Sector 1, and typically you'd go to Sector 1 and pick people up, and it's kind of like a colonization type theme, and you'd try to drop them off on your planet. I think the planet would naturally generate colonists as well. And you also had fighters. Fighters are basically like ships or whatever, little small ships that you can use. You can generate them on your planet, or you can use those fighters on your ships to attack other players or attack other planets. There's also a starport in the middle of the graph, and that's where you'd buy your new ships, things like that. I remember there was like a grizzled trader where you could get like information on other players or try to figure out where they were. I can't remember all the details of it, but I remember the starport was a cool place to hang out. And there was like Fed space, so you wouldn't be able to attack people in that Federation space. But yeah, you can see here where you'd work between the different sectors. The ones that were in this light cyan color, those are ones that you, I believe, visited, and the ones that were in red are the ones that you haven't been to before. So I was talking about BBSs and BBS list. One good site is the Telnet BBS Guide at telnetbbsguide.com, and you can go there and find a lot of cool online BBSs that still run a lot of these games today. And I typically use PuTTY when I connect to these, so I'm going to try to connect to one right now. I don't know how well this will go, but I found one called Seabreeze. I just picked this from random. So you can see here, like it's all text-based and everything. So I already created a player. I think I was command on this one. Let's see if I remember my password. Okay. So typically when you log into a BBS, you get all of this system messages. And yeah, there's flashing text, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But typically you just press continue to get through all this. Or in nonstop. You can have mail messages. This isn't like email, it's like system level mail. Some BBSs had mail that you could send out to the internet, but typically your mail was limited to that system. And one thing you'll frequently see on BBSs is SysOp. That stands for system operator. There's actually a BBS game called Virtual Size Off, which was pretty cool, where you could buy modems and create your own BBS. It's kind of like a game in a game type, like a meta type game. You're on a BBS making new BBSs. Go ahead and exit. So let's continue. And just cool little messages. So here's an example of some ANSI graphics right here. It looks like this was out of Legend of the Red Dragon right there. So you can see there command. So I'm going to continue. And here's like a main menu for a BBS where you got your chat rooms. And this one has something called pictograms where you can view ANSI graphics like a house at Christmas. If you really like ANSI graphics. I think there's one on here that's like a Ninja Turtle, 24. You can see a Ninja Turtle right there. Or, let's see here. See what Elvis is. There's Elvis right there. But yeah, we came here to look at the game, so you can go to Y Game Collection. No, that's not it. Continue. See if it's online games. Okay, so we want to go to RPG games F. Go to Legend of the Red Dragon. Just play game 1. So there's some more ANSI graphics. So yeah, you enter the realm. Oh, somebody attacked me. So there's some of my stats like experience and level, forced fights. So typically, you can do a question mark and see the main menu there. You go to the forest and you look for something to kill and you can attack. So I killed a small bear, look for something to attack. I got damaged. Try not to get killed. You can go to the inn, or no, not the inn. You can go to the healer's hut and heal all your hit points. I think you can press V to view your stats. So once I get to 100... Okay, so there's a special event. So every time you look for something to kill, then random events could happen. So yeah, let's ask for a blessing. I got 10 experience. Yay! Look, attack. So typically you want to type V to see. So I'm up to 95 experience. V. So I'm at 100 experience now. So I'm going to go back, healer's hut, heal all possible. So now I want to go to Turgon's warrior training, and I want to question. And so he says, okay, I'm ready to attack the master. So I can do a Death Knight attack. Oh, no, I can't do a Death Knight attack in the trainer's fight. And attack. Oh, I beat Halder the first. So now I'm level 2. So you have to beat the master to go up. So if I question the next master, then I need 300 more points. So I can go to healer. So after you do the fight with the master, then he refills your health. But yeah, it's a pretty cool game. I was going to show off, like, if you go to O for other places, then here are the inner game modules. I'm not going to mess around with this. Let's see if I can just exit out of that. Quit out of that. Press P to see who's on right now. So it's just me. You can see who's married yet. Go to the end. Like one thing, Violet, that's the woman. So you can press F to flirt with Violet. So you have different things you can do. Wink or kiss her hand. So I'll just wink. And receive 10 experience. So you can go all the way up to getting married. And I think only one person could be married to Violet at a time. I remember there was something about Jenny Garth as a cheat code. I forget if you have to be in the forest, like J. Yeah, you just type J. What is that? Some special trick or something? Oh, at the intro screen. Can I type J here? Not here. So it must be on the main screen. I'm not sure. It's been a long time since I played this. But, yeah, that's about it. You know, slaughter other players, nobody else. List warriors in the field. I'm the only one out here. So that's pretty much Legend of the Red Dragon. So I'm going to go back and go back. Then we'll go to Space Battle Games and go to Trade Wars 2002. Come command. Go to the first one. So here's Trade Wars. Play Trade Wars. Now I don't want to see the log. This one requires another password. I received the experience point. So it's, on this one I land on my planet, see all the colonists on the planet and the products. So I could actually load this up. Take all products. You took one of equipment. Okay. You blast off. There was a way to see like the global game stats. Is it V? Yeah. So the star dock is in 1375. So I'm typing 1375. That can warp to the star dock. So this autopilot will engage and take you right there. And as along the way, you can dock at the port. So don't want to stop at that one because it's all sell. This one's sell buy. So I can actually port at this one and trade. And I want to sell some organics. You use the default value, but the real objective of this game is to make it a little bit higher than what they're buying them for. And then when you sell them, when you buy from them, you want to make it a little bit lower. So I want to sell one. So let's say 130. Then if you're really good at trading, then you'll get a little bit of experience. So I went 80. He says 98. Let's do 85. Let's do 95. So I don't want to shut down. But if you buy and trade long enough, they'll just give up on you. I think usually 3 times, and then you're usually done. So this is the Fed space right here. You can port at the star dock, land on star dock, and that's where it is right there. And yeah, you got the Cineplex, Vulcan Thunder, pay 100. So they got these little ANSI graphic type things you can see here. But the real point of coming here is to go to the shipyards. And then here's where you can buy a new ship. So you want to trade in the old ship? Yeah. Uh-oh. Yeah, I don't want to sell my ship until I buy a new one. Buy a new ship. No. Ready to deal? Yes. Which are you interested in? So like the best one was the Imperial Starship, which I can't. Seems like the Mule was actually pretty good. So let's blast off of here, and then go to computer, and then you can view ship catalog. And I think this was pretty cool back in the time. So you can see so there's like a merchant freighter, which is a pretty good starting ship. Imperial Starship. So actually the ANSI graphics were actually pretty cool at the time for a text-based game. Interdictor Cruiser, Taholian Sentinel, Constellation, Star Master. There's one of these that kind of look like a ship from Wing Commander, Missile Frigate. I think there's also enemy ships too, like the Ferengi Battleship. That might be the one that I'm thinking of. Corporate Flagship. Corporate Flagship was good too. Colonial Transport. Cargo Train. Havoc Gunstar. Star Master. See if it has the enemy ship. So you have your different classes. Good for. I think you could either be good or evil. If you want evil, doing bad things, then the space cops would try to kill you. But I thought there was enemy ships too, but I don't see that. There's an alien trader rank. Titles. Yeah, there's must be CPU characters there. But yeah, tons of stuff to do in this game. You had beacons that you could shoot out and explore the universe. And if your beacon got blown up, then you knew that it was probably an enemy's or another player's base, and things like that. But yeah, pretty cool game right here. Go ahead and quit out of this. Exit. Quit. So let me go back to the presentation. So I talked a little bit about ANSI graphics. So ANSI graphics, they used what's called extended IBM characters, which were above the standard 128 ASCII characters. So you can make some pretty cool things. Like in one of my Xbox Live Indie games, I actually used this program called Acid Draw, and Acid Draw was used to create ANSI files for a lot of BBS games, but I used it to create graphics for my Xbox Live Indie game on the Xbox 360 game. And I just used like a screen paste right there and copied the character out. So let's see if I can get Acid Draw running. Okay, so I got DOSBox running here, so I'm going to mount D to my D drive. Go to D, then I have Tools, then Acid Draw. Yeah, so this was pretty cool. You could press Escape to change your background color and your foreground color. Then you could just like come up here and like type text if you just want text, or you could use your function keys to like draw different. Like if I want to draw a box, I'd use 1. And then, let's say 5, and then F2, and then I could do 6, and then spaces, and a 6, and then make the bottom corner, do an F3, and a 5, and a F4. So you can make like a little box like that. Or you can press Control to change the characters that you're using. So yeah, we can change the color like a light cyan on a dark cyan. So your Control. Okay, so it's Alt, so I can use Alt and then a function key, and then I can make cool graphics like this. 7, then like a line going over. Oh, a lot of times you see like these characters like this, so you can kind of make a gradient type shading type deal with these. I think they're like IBM extended ASCII characters. Then you had like your smiley faces and your poker symbols. So yeah, I've made a whole game using these little characters. You had like arrows, up arrows, and down arrows, and things like that. But yeah, this is Acid Draw. So yeah, if you want to make some ANSI graphics, then you can use Control S or Alt S. Yeah, Alt S to save out in ANSI format. You have some options like my new, save it out as my new ANSI.ans. So yeah, we can go to File, Open, go to our D drive, then look in Tools, Acid Draw, then My New ANS. So yeah, you can see all the, zoom into this. You can see actually the code for that ANSI right here. So there's a lot of escape sequences and numbers and things like that, which I'll talk about here in a little bit. So yeah, so those codes that you just saw, they're called VT100 codes. So as a way to add color and different properties to text through a terminal that supports VT100 emulation, such as PuTTY, or you can actually use Telnet from the command prompt. Like type in CMD, then Telnet. But you have to enable this. You have to enable this Telnet in your Windows settings. So typical color code, you use this. It looks like a caret and then open square bracket, but it's actually this escape character, which is int 27 or 27 in decimal, which I have down here. So you send that character, then another, or actually it's just a single square bracket. And then you give it a number for the bright toggle, whether the foreground color is bright or not, like bright cyan or dark cyan. Then a semicolon, then the foreground color, the background color, and then a lowercase m. If you want to move the cursor around on the screen, then you use that escape, square bracket, then the number of spaces to move as an integer, then A to move up, or capital B to move down, capital C to move right, and capital D to move left. And if you just want to reset everything, you can do the escape character, open square bracket, and a 0M. There's actually quite a few references out there for these VT100 codes. Those are the ones that you typically see, especially for ANSI graphics. But you can see here there's plenty of different VT100 codes that you can use. Now, I'm not sure if all of these are supported by all terminals. I know one was like Escape 5, which makes text blinking, so maybe not all terminals support the blinking text. I know you can turn that on and off in PuTTY. One quick tip, if you are using PuTTY, and if you have some ANSI graphics that ask you, is this blinking, say yes, whether it's blinking or not. Otherwise, you get put into a monochrome mode, which isn't fun. Here's some more VT100 escape codes right here. Like I was saying, I don't know if all these are always supported by all terminal programs, but you can try them out if you want to, see if they work or not. And here's one more down here. So yeah, all of these links are in the slides. I'll also probably post them as notes in the post. Let's go back. So you can see here, cursor up and down like I talked about before. A lot of different codes. And here's some of the color codes down here that I was talking about. Typically you have 7 colors: black, red, green, yellow, blue, magenta, cyan, and white. Then they kind of repeat with a higher level of brightness after that. So yeah, here's the VT100 color codes. So the foreground colors are typically in the range, they're in the range of 30 to 37, starting with black and then going to blue, green. You can actually calculate with RGB values these numbers, but it's easier just to use a reference like this. And then here you can see the brightness code. So for the first 8, it's 0, and then the others are 1. I think by default, 0 is implied. So if you don't put that first number in your code, then it assumes that it's a 0. And then the background color is the same, except for it's from 40 to 47. And there's no brightness in the background. So the background is always one of the only 4/7 colors. So you can see here, right here, I got blue on red. So you can see the escape code. You started out with the escape, square bracket, 0M to clear everything out. And then I do the color code for red is escape, square bracket 34:41M. Then I have the text blue on red. And then I believe this next one, I think that just clears it out, right? 37, so that's white and black. So it just kind of resets it there at the end. So if you want green on magenta, you do escape, square bracket 32:45M. So that's dark green on magenta. If you want yellow on black, then you do escape, then 1, then semicolon 33M. So if you leave off the 40 value, a background value, it just assumes black. So yeah, here's a simple Telnet server that I created. I was kind of proud of this. I mean, it's basically like just creating a socket, but I made this in Ruby. So any modern programming language, Ruby, Perl, or Python, they should have a library to do sockets. So to create a simple Telnet server, all you got to do is open up a socket for your server. Typically, Telnet uses port 23. So you just open up your server on port 23. you create a loop, and then you create a client connection, wait for a client to connect, then you just keep looping, waiting for the client to do something. So let's go back over to my DOS prompt here. I'm going to go to, actually I don't even think I need this right here. I might use it here in a minute. So I just want to go to my LD Smith tools, and then go to simple Telnet server. So I kind of did this in different phases. So this is the first one right here, and it's the same code that I just showed. So basically all this server is going to do is wait for a client to connect. It's going to print out the current server time, and then it's going to count to 10, waiting 1 second between each step. So what I'm going to do, so I got the server up and running right now by double clicking it. You can see simple Telnet server right there. Let's see if I can make this bigger. Edit. Oh, properties. 36, okay. So I got the server running right there. Maybe not that big. Localhost load. Localhost. Yeah, so you can see right here, it's printing the time 10-9-8-7-6-5-4-3-2-1-0. Let's go back to DOS. Telnet localhost. Oh, so it's just localhost. So here you can see closing in 10-9-8-7-6-5. You can see here, well, 3, 2, 1, closing the connection right there. Then in this, you can see we're client connected right there. So I'm going to close. Now let's see who's texting me. So here's the second Telnet server. Let's take a look at it. So this one's going to open up an ANSI that I created. I'm going to bring it up here in DOSBox. Mount D LD Smith tools D acid draw. So I'm going to load, do an Alt-L to load. Then I can go to, I think hello. That's not it. My new ANSI. What was it? Test.ans. Where is it? Acid draw. Oh, it's in the server directory. Tools. Then simple server. So all this has the 8.3 format. So you got the tildes and everything. So test. Yeah, so this is my blue on red, green on magenta, cyan on brown, and all that. So we got our second server running. So I'm going to go to PuTTY, localhost, load, open. So yeah, so now it's printing my message blue on red, green on magenta, and then it's also doing the countdown right here. Then it just closes after it gets down to 1. That's what it's doing right there. So basically we load in, we read that ANS file in read mode. Thankfully Ruby makes it pretty easy to read in a text file. And one thing you got to be careful about when you're doing terminal programming, in most regular program, console, Windows-based programs, you do a \n to make your cursor go down to the next line. On a terminal, you got to make it go to the next line, and then you also have to do a carriage return, which is a \R. So in this, you got to convert all the \ns to a \n/r. So that's when sometimes you see a carriage return and line feed. That's what it does. It's kind of like an old school typewriter. If people are familiar with those, you could press return, then it would go down a line. But then the really old ones, you had to like knock the thing back to make it go back to the beginning. So that's what a carriage return. That's the difference between a carriage return and a line feed. Line feed's going down. Carriage return moves it back to the beginning. Here's where it's counting down to 1 right there. So let's start our third server right here. Going to edit. So we're doing the same thing. We're starting the server up on port. It's going to listen for connections on port 23. Oh, and this one is going to use the Meadows. So this is the one that I made for my TTY GFX adventure game on Xbox 360. Unfortunately, I don't think you can get it on Xbox 360 anymore, but I do have it on itch.io. I think it's $1 if you want to play it. It's just $1. So here's Meadows. So I use this graphic on a lot of my websites. It's kind of like my little theme. And that's what this was created in, is acid draw. So you can actually move it. It's kind of hard to see the cursor, but you can actually move around on this thing and see how I made it, which is kind of cool. So close that. So now I want to use PuTTY. Connect to localhost. So yeah, you can see right here, you have to tweak the font a little bit. There's some options you got to watch out for. You can go to change settings and then go to appearance, and you have to use a terminal style font. So there's actually a site. I think I put it in the tips right here. I use AC437 IBM BIOS font. There's a site called Old School Font PC Resource. So you can go there and you can get a lot of these old fonts. Font index. And you can download them all as one package. So getting a font from this site will give you those IBM extended ASCII characters. Otherwise, it's going to look like a whole bunch of gobbledygook. And you also got to do the set translation. I think I just put it like this CP866 to display the extended ANSI characters. I don't even know what that means, but I tried a few different encodings. None of them worked. But I put in that CP, like what it said right there, the CP866. It's under translation. I tried a bunch of these other ISOs and all that. And none of those worked. So and that one seemed to work right there. So the third test, and for some reason it puts this PuTTY right there as input. I don't know what that is. If you do it through the DOS prompt, then it doesn't put that in there. It's pushing something weird through there. But yeah, with this one I made a little menu so you can see count to 10, display timer, exit. And see right here on my loop for this third server, we got it while keep looping. We're going to accept the connection. We're going to display the ANSI image and then display the time. Then we're going to call display menu, which basically just puts the different values right here. So if I press C, then it's going to count to 10. Now I'll implicitly convert the lowercase c to an uppercase C in there. Move this over to the center. Then if I do a T, then I'm going to display time, C, counts to 10. So we're kind of building our own little BBS Telnet server here, which is pretty cool. I looked up the Telnet standard, and it doesn't look like there's too many not much of a standard to it at all. It's just like you can do whatever you want to do. It isn't like HTTP or FTP or whatever. You're basically just opening a socket and communicating yourself. So I got two different little modules here that's called based on whether you press C or T. So, and you can see here on the server, I'm outputting the client's input. Now, one downside to this server that I've written right here is it only accepts one connection at a time. So if I go to PuTTY and I open localhost and move this over. So I can do like T to display time. Now if I go in with another putty, go to localhost. Now this one's going to freeze. You don't see anything on there until I go to exit and exit out of that. Maybe it's still on. Oh, there it goes. It just picked it up right there. So the problem that's going on here is this server is not threaded. So what you would really want to do in a real server is open up a new thread for each client, so then it could service multiple client requests at the same time. But I'll leave that as an exercise to the student. So let's close server 3 and go to server 4. So here's a simple Telnet server. Let's look at the code. And so this one has all the same options, but this one actually has the number guessing game. So this is what I recommend is like the first program that everybody write. I'm just pressing enter here to clear out the buffer. If this was more complex, I'd handle that myself. But display time. So yeah, here's number guessing game. Guess the number from 1 to 100. So I'm going to guess 50. So I actually added the ANSI or VT100 color codes to this. So it says 50 lower. So I'm going to guess 25. Lower. Guess 12. Higher. Guess 18. Correct. 4 total guesses. So if we look at the code, then I got like a little module just to function here, number guess. So I'm going to set R to a new random. So if I make this bigger. R to a new random value from 1 to 100. That's what I'm doing right there. I'm going to set the initial guess to -1. Then I'm going to set the number of guesses to 0. And then we're going to print out to the client, guess the number from 1 to 100. And remember to put the carriage return. Since we're doing puts in Ruby, that automatically puts the \n at the end. I don't think it really matters if you do \n, \r, or \r, or \n. It just matters that you have them both in there. So we're going to do a loop, and while the guess is not equal to the random number generated, then we're going to accept input from the client. So I got my character codes defined here. So we're going to turn that escape character 27 into a character. Turn the int 27 into a character. Then we're going to add the color code, the square bracket, then either a 1 or a 0 for the brightness value, then semicolon, then the foreground color value from 30 to 37, whatever it was, and then the background color, semicolon, the background color, which is 40 to 47, and then an M. So that's going to give us our color code. And then, so here is where if you guess something, then we're going to write out to the client the color, then the guess value, and then the second color, and then either lower if it's lower, or in the next else if higher if it's higher. Then if the guess equaled the random value, then we're going to put out the third color correct. Then we're going to do carriage return line feed. Then in the other color, we want to say the total number of guesses right there. And then at the end, we're just going to clear out everything on there. So yeah, that's all there is to it for a number guessing game using Telnet. And what's cool is me running this right now, somebody on the internet could play this if I gave them my IP address. And which I think I mentioned on an earlier episode of Knox Game Design, you can get from What's My IP. But you have to go into if you have a cable modem with a router, then you got to set up port forwarding. So you would tell it for port 23, go to whatever the IP is or whatever system I'm currently running this on. So you could actually run this on your system and have somebody on the internet come and connect. That may not be the most secure thing. I don't think there's really any vulnerabilities to this right here. But yeah, if you just want to give it to a friend, I mean, that would be cool to try out. Or if you had a server, you could put this on a server and run it as well. But you could get really fancy and write your own authentication mechanisms and all that. Or you could use one of the Telnet software that's already out there. If you just have web hosting, I don't think you can do this. I think you almost have to have like a, VPS, a virtual private server type thing going on to be able to do this. But yeah, that's it for a Telnet server right there. So I'll mention the tips and mention you can actually get the specification for Telnet right here. So if you really want some reading material, you can go to IETF, tools.ietf.org, and this is the official standard for Telnet right here. So if you want some reading material, you can know all the details. A lot of these were under what's called an RFC, request for comments. So you can see this was defined in 1983. So this is pretty old stuff, but it's pretty cool that you can still use it today. And if you want to get Acid Draw, you can go to Acid Productions at acid.org. And I think I actually had to download this from somewhere like SourceForge. SourceForge. But this is a little bit about the creators. I think their download links are broken now, so you can get it from SourceForge or somewhere like that. But you have to run it through DOSBox. If you download this and try to run it on Windows 10, it's not going to work. Yeah, so that's going to wrap it up for August 2020. I really haven't been doing that much I haven't been doing any game jams. Haven't been doing much game programming, but I was able to create this presentation. It's like one of those things I wanted to go back and refresh myself on. It brought back a lot of old memories from the 90s about some of the things that I did when I was a teenager, playing BBS games and things like that, and brought back a lot of old memories. But I'm kind of taking a break from game development now. I just kind of realized I need to get out into the real world a lot more. And yeah, just anyone out there, don't get to the point where you come home from work and you turn on the computer and turn on the TV and sit in front of it until you go to bed. I mean, that's not a very good life right there. So yeah, you got to get out every now and then and enjoy life. It's kind of hard these days, but there's still plenty of the things that you can do outside and with other people. I'm trying to get reconnected with a lot of other people and things like that. So yeah, I haven't been doing much game programming lately, but I do want to do Ludum Dare in October. I'm not sure if we're going to have a kickoff or anything. I might try to set something up. I'll probably post it to the Discord. Yeah, everybody out there, if you're not on the Discord, you can go to knoxgamedesign.org, and it's like the second link at the top. Oh, not sharing that. It's like the second link right here. You can click on Discord, and that'll add you to our Discord channel. Discord. So yeah, I really like all the activity. I try to read everything that everybody posts. Everybody's making some cool games. I know my Thick started working on like a text-based game right here. And Jeffrey was explaining some stuff about mazes. I remember he talked about this in one of our Knox game design meetings. And Locksmith Army is making a little maze game right here too. And Zombie Huggles. And we've got a new member, Laud Have Mercy in there. So yeah. Really cool stuff. Definitely recommend everybody checking out the Discord channel if anybody out there wants to talk to us or just hang out or ask any game development questions. A lot of good people in there answering questions and things like that. Yeah, so that's going to wrap it up for August 2020. I plan to possibly do this again in September. I don't know. There's still topics I want to do. I still want to do Allegro. Still want to do mono game, especially converting a game from Xbox Live Any Game or XNA to mono game, because I think that would be very beneficial, because I know there's a lot of us out here that have created games for Xbox Live Indie Games back around 2013 or 2012 in that time frame, and those games will no longer run on Windows. So I think it'd be cool to like have a guide on how to get those working with mono games. So mono games kind of like the open source equivalent to XNA. So yeah, there's still quite a few topics out there. So I'll try to keep doing this. I'll just say periodically. I don't know if it'll be every month, but periodically until I have no more game development topics to talk about. So I appreciate everybody watching this. I'm going to try to keep putting these on YouTube, but I don't know what YouTube's doing anymore, so I may have to find a new place to put the videos. And currently we're on a ton of places for the audio. You can get us on iTunes, just look up Knox Game Design, or Stitcher, or Google Play, or Spotify. I think we're also on iHeartRadio and a lot of other ones I've forgotten about already. Yeah, okay, TuneIn, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and all those good places. So, appreciate everyone out there watching the videos. I recommend checking out the videos because it's good to listen to this, but you can also see a lot more of what I'm showing on the screen if you watch the video. But the audio is good too to listen to, I think. So, till next time, thanks everyone for listening and watching.